Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Thank you, Calvin. And obviously thank you, Rad and Paul, for what they've talked about so far. We're sort of highlighting the good and the bad and recovery part of SEO. In this talk, I want to sort of hopefully develop what they've talked about. I want to reflect on what I think there's a new ugly in SEO, hence the title of my talk. And actually, it's not AI, although I think if you fall into the trap of this ugly, I think AI could be a challenge. But I think it is something people are going to sleepwalk into. I'm aware we might as an agency if we don't keep iterating. Quickly, before I start, a little bit about me. I accidentally got into SEO quite a long time ago. It was back in the day, actually, when Yahoo were the biggest search engine. I was using Windows 98 on those sort of beige computers. And it was websites or search engines like Lycos, Alta Vista, Look Smart. Does anyone else use those? Anyone else remember Lycos? Okay, maybe 4 people in this room are my age. Okay, that's great. Everyone else, who else was built up, sort of born after 1999? Anyone born after 1999? Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to move on. But anyway, I was fortunate to be part of lots of fun and games at that time, successes and challenges as Google's evolved. I then ended up running some SEO for a training company around the SEO and then set up Vaughton in 2010. And we're now an SEO agency based near Bath, a sort of team of 24 SEOers, and I love it. But anyway, quickly moving on. So good SEO. Thanks to Paul to defining that. I don't think I need to add much to that. I think as Paul said, it just goes beyond the basics, doesn't it? It's sort of proven strategies, not short-term goals. It's all about that contributing towards the success of the business, not just looking at SEO in that silo. You know, it's never about one thing, is it? It's never just tech SEO. It's never just links. Or it's never just content or just page speed. It is that long-term building a brand, supporting the client's business. Although I think there is, it's about long-term growth. I think there is a slight warning there that not all growth is actually growth. And I think sometimes as agencies, we focus on that sort of positive data to our clients, like, look, we're growing, revenue's growing, conversions are growing. But I think there is something to be aware of. And if you're an agency, it's about how do you monitor this. And if you're a client working with an agency, it's how do you find out this data with your client. And it is what I call measuring against market share. This is a graph we were putting together for a client actually that we've worked with for over a decade, trying to show their growth against the market. And I think this is where there's a trick, because not all growth is growth. So you could be growing, but if the market, the online market space for your product or service is growing quicker, then you're not actually growing at all, are you? You're actually shrinking in market size. And that might mean actually your SEO strategy isn't actually as good as you think it is. You're just growing because more people are looking. So I think I would get your teams to monitor market size regularly to check you're producing strategies and traffic and revenue that is going ahead of that. You've got to ask yourself that, or ask your SEO agency to do it. And if they aren't, get them to do it, because you might not be growing at all, even though you feel you are. So please remember that. Although this isn't the main point of my talk, but you must judge yourself against the competition, not just against yourself and the previous months. And it actually can help if you do this. A, it helps keep you honest, but B, if there's a dip, it can help you as well. Obviously, we had some clients in lockdown that did brilliantly because their product just really reflected a need. But then after that, there was a drop. And obviously that was a bit stressful for their stock management and cash flow. But because we were still monitoring market share, we could show their market share had gone up by 30%, although revenue had dipped. And that helped reassure them that the strategy we had was still working. So please just bear that in mind when you're looking at good SEO. It's also mapping it against the wider market. Bad. Right, it was a great example actually Rad had of, obviously before their agency got involved, of bad SEO. And I think it's sort of two things for me. Google's obviously got smarter, ignoring the classic issues of bad SEO, of maybe trying to impact competitors, or trying to cut corners and private blog networks and that sort of thing. But there's two areas that concern me. It does still work a bit, bad SEO, so people do still try to cut corners and in a clever ways try and gain links that passively, that aren't organic. I think there's also just oversimplifying SEO is what I would call bad SEO. So it's those, you get agencies that say we build SEO friendly websites, don't you? And they sort of nominally are, but they're not getting the bigger picture of SEO. So when the website goes live, it drops off, the traffic drops, and they're like, well, that's quite normal for traffic to drop when you change a website for a domain. It doesn't have to be, does it? And that's bad SEO as well. So I'll watch against those two. And over the sort of 2 decades I've been doing SEO, I've never seen, I can say this honestly, I've never seen people succeed for the long run who have tried to cheat or cut corners or just do cheap SEO. I'm not saying there isn't a shot in the arm when you try and cut corners, a bit like drugs in sport probably, but if you get caught, the negative way out outweighs the positive. But what I want to focus on today, like I said, is what I think is worse than bad SEO actually. I think it is a risk to us as agencies or as in-house SEOers, and it's I think a risk to the SEO sort of reputation of the industry, which in the 2000s, back in the early days of SEO, probably when brightonSEO started, it did have a bit of a double glazing sales. People were just cheating kind of name if you weren't careful. But I think this could be the new ugly. This obviously is a picture of me. I'm not saying there's a random ugly child out there, obviously, just in case you're wondering. Although my son does look like me, so he might be slightly offended. But yeah, this is me in my running gear. But yeah, I think the new ugly, what we need to be careful of, is actually what I'd call mediocre SEO. And although I was a bit younger in this photo, I want to share you a story of where I've experienced the pitfalls of being mediocre. And do bear with me, because there is an SEO point to this story. I happened to be quite a good runner when I was a kid, so our PE teacher would always enter me into these 1,500 metre races, which I used to do quite well. And there was an annual one that I'd won the previous year quite easily. This year was a bit more serious, because if you came in the top 3, a bit like on Google, you get the reward, you go to the national competition. So I was like, sweet, this sounds fun. And that's sort of where my overconfidence and reliance on the past, that's where my problems started. There was a couple of new people in the race I didn't recognise, but I was like, that's fine, there's only 2 of them. I need to finish 3rd. That's fine. And I sort of then epitomised the saying if you fail to plan, you're actually planning to fail. And we're all getting ready in the changing room as you do, which is a bit of a weird environment. People getting changed with people you don't know. I suddenly realised I don't have my running trainers. I had 2 options. I either run barefoot or I run in my large black Clark's leather shoes and long grey socks. I had no choice really, and I think it's a bit like the SEO version probably of you working with a web agency. You're just about to put the website live and you suddenly realise the client's changed the cheapest shared WordPress hosting he can find and installed hundreds of WordPress plugins at the same time without telling you. Obviously a bit of a pain. So there's no choice. I cracked on with the race, ran round. It was going fine, a bit like that cheap hosting when no one's on your website. It was fine. I was quite confident. Now, obviously, by the end of the race, it didn't turn out well. I finished sort of, in the Google terms, below the fold, and into obscurity. My teacher was somewhat cross with me, so I never forgot those again. But the point of my story is, it wasn't that I didn't try. And realistically, it wasn't that my shoes were a problem. If I was good enough, I still should have been able to compete. And I think this is the problem, or the challenge we have with SEO. A lot of us, I think we do try. We do spend the time on SEO, on working through our tick lists, on working through what we're going to do, on chatting to the client, on trying hard. We're trying to be honest. We'll try not to cheat. But I think we're not realising that we're just slowly sort of walking into mediocre SEO. And I think this is the point of the story. And I think mediocre can creep up on you. It's like with that race. I thought I was good. There was no reason I wasn't going to be good. But having reflected, my training didn't work. And also I just had lost, I sort of lost that ability I thought I had to run. And it goes back to this slide really. I think it's sort of the opposite of this. It's that being complacency just because you've had strategies that worked in the past. Like I said, I was wearing the wrong shoes. that wasn't the main issue. My competitors had improved more than I had, although I had improved. And, my training that I thought was good is sort of, in terms of training, that's your SEO strategy and implementation, obviously wasn't good enough. It had been successful in previous years, so my teacher never asked me, what are you doing? But it turns out it was really poor training. Running to work isn't a good piece of training where your competitors are training really well. I think that's like with SEO. Clients don't always ask what we're doing, do they? As long as it's going well. And then when they do ask, it can be too late. So what I'm trying to say is, please don't make the same sort of mistake I did, but in the SEO world. If you've previously had good results, that doesn't mean you will in the future. So take a look, at your competition. What are they doing? Because you could have unintentionally slowed down against the market, and by the time you notice, it'll be too late. So I think what we need to do is reflect as individuals and as an industry, because it does actually slightly worry me how agencies can charge quite a lot for monthly SEO or an audit, and then not really deliver sort of that proper market growth or measurable commercial results. And I think my main worry about that is for us actually, and for our clients, is that I don't think it is intentional. I think we are trying. I think eventually clients will notice, and they'll either be too late by that point, or they'll move clients, or if you're an in-house team, there's just pressure you don't need. If you are doing those same strategies, they will catch up with you. It comes back to that constant evolution. Looking busy, being good, trying hard, sending reports of what you're doing with your time isn't going to be enough. To be fair, 5 to 10 years ago, having the same process again and again did work, because there was less competition. Google wasn't as smart. There wasn't as much content on the internet. But unfortunately, a lot of companies and agencies, I think, still treat SEO like this. I think part of that is because it's easier to sell. If you're working with a marketing team, it's easier to sell just SEO. But as Paul was saying, it's got to be linked to everything else for long-term success. Just selling it as a service now isn't going to work. But I think also we need to reflect on how transparent are we as an in-house team, if we're an in-house team, or as an agency, if we're an agency. And the reason I like transparency is because it's for two reasons, actually. One, and it does add a layer of pressure, but it makes it so much easier to build trust with your line managers, or with your partnering, you're partnering with clients. For example, we generally work on like a monthly rolling contract basis, or a sort of 3 or 6 month plan. But never like longer than that, never long-term projects. And we've grown with clients and worked with clients. We've got multiple clients we've worked with for over 10 years, because we've grown with them. We've grown in size as they've grown, but that's been through trust and being very transparent with what we do. And I think the second reason transparency is great is because it does guard against being mediocre. Because if you're being open with what you're doing, what the impact is of what you're doing, and what the rest of the market's doing, then your boss or your client, depending on the relationship, combines what you're doing and understand it isn't a waste of time, rather than just it being an off-the-shelf, I just pay money out to this service. So my question to you is, are you doing enough, to develop yourself and your team and your agency at the same time as working to monitor that sort of online, the sort of market size? And if not, you do need to start doing that and linking that to business objectives. Are you actively trying to avoid accidentally being mediocre? In fact, if you're still wondering what does Tom mean by mediocre, just a couple of things that I've noticed that have been said that I would class as mediocre, or questions at your agency or in-house team, or conversations in your office that might be happening. I'm just going to run through those. So I think it's worth thinking about this. I'm not saying, actually, as I mentioned, I'm not saying this is intentional. I think most people I know that work in SEO try hard, they put the hours in, they care about their clients and their relationships. So I'm not trying to have a dig. I'm just saying, just reflect on, am I having these conversations, or my client or my agency saying these sort of things? I mean, it's anything from the basics of sort of the opposite, I suppose, of what Paul said, really. It's like people are saying, what package do you want? We've got these packages, that did work 5 years ago, but it doesn't now. It's how many links do you want a month question, as my kids would say, that's a red flag. Just talking about a single channel SEO strategy. Again, the opposite to what Paul was saying. Are they just talking about working on tech SEO the whole time, or just talking about content? or just not explaining, just not being transparent. If they're not explaining where they're getting links from, you want to worry, okay? There is that transparency is key. Or it may just be something as simple as they've just got outdated case studies on their website because they did have success in the past, but SEO is getting harder. So, if they haven't got recent case studies, or will they introduce you to other clients and let you chat to other current clients? And if they won't, be slightly cautious. And do they create, quality, industry relevant content? Are they out there talking and learning and developing? And if they're not, they're probably just copying. So again, if they're copying someone else who's going to be mediocre, they're going to be mediocre in the long run. Or is it they just treat you as a vendor rather than a partner? So it's all more about just signing that 12-month contract and just pushing out reports. Life is about, it's about partnerships, isn't it? And hiring the right SEO agency or the right in-house team is key to success. So asking these questions, whilst possibly awkward, is worth doing. And I've got a slight concern actually for agencies specifically, and we're an agency, so it worries me, is that, so this is mainly a message for owners or senior teams, is I've noticed a slight shift in clients or companies taking SEO in-house. I think it's because more and more clients are a bit underwhelmed with the SEO. I think they realise they see what they're paying for, but often they're getting mediocre or sort of automated SEO back. It's just a bit of a factory, and so I think if you're not being transparent and pushing boundaries, why won't they take it in-house? If you're just not being careful and you're just pushing out SEMrush reports or any of the other softwares, and I haven't got a problem with software. We use the software, and if I can have a favourite, my favourite is Screaming Frog, but that might just be because I quite like data. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying we shouldn't use it, but if you are just doing those, clients will just be like, well, we'll just take it in-house because they're not getting the value they should, or they're not understanding the value you're doing. As Paul eloquently said, in a very short space of time, so do look through the slides again, there's a lot in SEO. If you oversimplify it, clients are just going to think it's easy when it really isn't. So think about that. And I think successful people, I think for successful people, what they'll be talking about is more talking about recent successes. So are your agency or team talking about recent successes, not just stuff in the past when they got things to rank previously? Or also, are they being clear with what they do with their time, especially if it's in-house, because you can look busy for fun? Or they're talking about the competition. I don't just mean what the competition are doing for their SEO strategy. I mean commercially outside of that. I did a talk about SEO a while ago about competitors, to dig that out, because there's loads you can find about their business performance that really impacts their SEO, especially for the long term of what they can invest in their website and SEO. And you can sort of outdo competitors for the long run if you know how they're performing financially. So they're looking at that. What does success look like for their senior team, as Paul mentioned? What are their plans for 1, 3 and 5 years? Are you working alongside those to achieve those, or are you just looking at micro moments? Or is it things like, this is our team, introducing your team? If you don't know the rest of the team that you work with, you just work with an account manager, that's a concern as well. So introduce the team, to the point where we'll have clients come and work at our office for the day, and that stops us from being mediocre because they hear everything we're chatting about. Or we'll go and work from their office for the day. It's about building something bigger, isn't it? It's no longer an outsourced service SEO. It's got to be in that sort of partnership. And at Vaughton, that's what we're sort of trying to work on. So you can celebrate the successes, but also be there for the challenges. For some companies, it's been a real challenge the last 2 years, and for agencies. But where we've been able to be transparent, and we've known, therefore, because transparency works both ways, we've enjoyed the successes. But when it's gone wrong, when the clients really struggled the last few years and they've had to fight for every sale, we've been able to sort of fight with them, and they know that, and they know we care. So rather than just seeing us as a cost, they're seeing us as a partner. But these are tough questions, but it is worth sitting down and thinking about that, I think, and thinking about the importance of, am I properly, working with this client? Are we pushing ourselves? I think if you do that, you'll be able to, in sort of get success for the long time. And then what you'll get, which is back to Paul's point, if someone can change the slides on the big screen, that'd be great. You'll get value, you'll get that long-term success, as Paul said, you'll get a partnership, you'll get education. Paul mentioned that is key. I used to be slightly scared, if I'm honest, of training some of our clients in case they take it in-house, but the more we've done that, the more we've been able to work with the client in partnerships. So do spend time on that. Results, are they being transparent and fun? honestly, it's way more fun if you can be open and transparent and be intentionally not trying to be mediocre. Life's too short. I think the stats, something like all of us spend something like 70% of our awake hours travelling to work, at work, or thinking about work. If you don't like it and you're just fighting fires and trying to protect client revenue the whole time, it's just no fun for anyone. So that's another reason to be sort of transparent and worry about mediocrity. It is a journey. Stuff goes wrong. But if you're not trying to push forward, and you're just following the whole time, you will get accidentally stuck in that mediocre trap of not providing proper above market growth value. So remember that. I think also we've got to aim to stay at that innovation curve. One thing we've been, there's obviously loads of talks about this in the next couple of days to go to these, but we've created like a little innovation team now that spend time training our clients, thinking about what's next, playing with AI, testing websites. We've built our own commercial sites that make money that we also test for SEO. So I think it's just being intentional. It's just stopping and thinking, are we being mediocre? Are we properly growing above the market size? And I think if there's one thing you can take away from this talk, if you're an SEO agency, it's just, are we trading and innovating enough? Just think about that. Just think, what are we doing? Are we looking at the clients? Are we looking at their market? Are we growing above that? I think if you're a client working with agencies, it's just how transparent and measurable are they? If you ask those tough questions, if they don't answer, it's a bit like Einstein said. So it's funny, Paul had an Einstein quote. If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't know what you're doing. So if your team or someone can't explain to you, they possibly don't know. But anyway, please use the rest of Brighton SEO just to think about that. Maybe just reflect on, are we accidentally doing a Tom in his running in school shoes and slipping into mediocrity or not? Enjoy the rest of the time. There's loads of great talks to spend time reflecting on that. And thank you.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.